Good day, puppy lovers. Leo, 5-year-old Morkie. Let's get grooming. Conditioning spray. Conditioning spray is a really good thing to use because it will condition the coat and help with any knots. If there are any knots, and it leaves the coat nice and silky. So I just sprayed a little on there, and I'm going to give him a nice quick brush with mine, and I will start drying him as soon as I get those eyes cleaned. So let's get his eyes and ears clean. He just took his bath, gave him his bath, and what you're going to need is a flea comb to clean out those eyes after having those little eyes soak up a bit of that water to get rid of this poop here. Once we got rid of that poop, I'm going to comb out, up and away, being very careful not to get the comb in his eyes. I'm going to use my tiny little scissors here, and I'm going to cut in an angle and get rid of all of that in the corner of his eyes. And the reason why I'm doing that is because now I'm going to come in and clean with my product. See, I did use soap around the muzzle, but I don't get soap inside the eyes in the corners here. So this is how I do things. I just use my eye cleaner, too much there, and I get rid of the poops, cut out that hair, then I come in with the eye cleaner to make sure I can get all of that out. I'm not getting the cleaner in the eyes either. I'm just going around here, and there you go. Now we're going to clean his ears. Clean his ears, pretty simple. I use ear cleaner on a pad. I don't pour inside the ear. My belief is if you can get water in the ear and it can cause problems, well, even if you're pouring this in the ear, this stuff can still stay stuck in the ear, although they will shake, but sometimes it does stay stuck and it can cause problems. So I come in here and I get rid of some of this hair here with my scissors. If the client asks me to pluck, I will pluck. But in general, if the dog does not have much hair there, I won't pluck because the ear can still breathe. If he was more stuffed, even if I would cut, he would still be stuffed because there's a lot of hair follicles in there. I would come in and I would pluck. I would talk to the client about it. Even plucking can cause problems with the ears. If you're plucking and you're taking too much at the same time or whatnot, that could cause some bleeding, some, ear issues. So to pluck or not to pluck, that is the question. As long as you're plucking just a little at a time. I used the same pad, but I did flip the pad over to go into the second ear. So at the same time, right before drying him, I'm letting all of that spray, by the way, that I put in his coat to soak in, and so that the hair can really absorb that product. Then I'll come into the back here, and there may be some extra poopies that might not have come out in the wash, in the bath. So I pull some of that, lightly take some of that out, and I will just snip, snip, snip. And the reason why I'll cut now is because I'm going to come in and clean his bum. Okay? So it's really important to clean the bum area too. You don't want any odors. If you're drying your dog and you're smelling odors while you're drying, because your dog is not properly washed. So you got to be sure, if ever there was anything that stayed stuck, in the wash we try to pull stuff out. Sometimes it needs to soak. Anyhow, I usually comb with a little flea comb to pull out any debris, and then I'll cut the hair around so that I can come in and wash that with a nice baby wipe here. So that bum is nice and clean. We're going to cut more off once he's dry, if there's more to come off, and that's it. All right, so that's how I get that done. Oh, and one more thing, be sure to wipe down your tools once you've used it for areas like that. And you're going to want to either clean them, disinfect them in some water, or just put alcohol here. I'm going to wipe up with alcohol. I wipe it up again. I have a towel here. I'm going to just gonna spray that alcohol back on there, and I'm gonna let that dry, okay? Because you don't want to come in with the next dog and try to cut his lips or something with some poopies on there. So, ugh. So here I like to use a harness for them so they don't, when I'm drying, so they don't turn, and because that becomes a little more complicated when you're trying to reach and reach and reach, and you don't want to have to be doing that because you have a whole career of grooming to do, right? So you want to save yourself from having any pain. Sorry, I disappeared from the screen there. Here I am going to wear a mask. Always wear a mask because I don't want groomer's lung. Groomer's lung is a serious disease. You should look it up on the internet, on Google, and yeah. So I wear a mask because of the hair, the dander, and whatnot. So it would be smart to do so. And some ear protection because now I have tinnitus in this ear because of that dryer. So should have done that in the beginning. Here we go. You're gonna notice I dry in sections. I always dry like one leg, the side, so it's always sections. I like to get the sections done, turn the dog around, and continue on. Then I know that it makes it seem like it's going faster, and I feel that it is going faster, so here we go. It's always good to get those underarms shaved. I use a 10 blade to shave the underarms, and the reason why is because those underarms they can get pretty matted. You don't want to be brushing under there because that's not very comfortable for them. So I always like to shave under their arms with a 10 blade. So before you attempt to use one of these adjustment combs on the dog, you have to be sure that you have brushed out your dog properly. So you have to be sure that here you've brushed it out, taken out some of the knots. You have to be careful when brushing in this area. You don't want to like brush too hard. You just tap and pull some away lightly, and use a comb or a brush or what are you doing? Yeah, because you don't want this little. Oh, it's dying out. Check that out. I love it when it does that. It's telling me time to plug me in. But I love these little I love these clippers. I prefer these to, the ones that you would put on a stand and they'll charge on a charger, because you can continue using your clipper. So yeah, as I was saying, back here, they can get full of knots and mats, so you want to be sure that that's cleared out before you start using this back there, okay? Something I like to do here is when I am clipping all of that here, see I clean this area out with a 10 blade, and now I'm coming down and clipping the bottom. Well, the transition from where it's clipped shorter to this, I just don't find it looks nice. So I like to come in the reverse, so that we can create some sort of gradient look under there, instead of having that blunt length, one length to the next length. So we'll move on with his head. So Guys, this is a perfect example for these little toenails here. We see his little dark, see he has a dark nail, and see how I cut. You see right in the center here, there's a black dot, then you have a little bit of white, and then after that you have more of his black, the top part of his nail. This means that the vein is right there. See, I have a little bit of dark here that I see, the middle part, but I'm not going to cut too much off because I know that if I go in any further, that vein is telling me that it's short enough. See all that dark in the middle? If this was a dog with white nails, the dog with white nails would have a pink dot in the middle. So when you're doing the nails, it's important not to just jump in and say, hey, I'll cut all of that off, okay? So here's a white nail. There's a little bit of that dot, but it's kind of it's like, you know, it's not pink, but what you do is you just peel just a little bit off. See, I find that that's enough. Once the nail is, it's like a little boat, like a cup like this. Once it's like this and it's pretty flush with his pad, you know, I'm holding that there. See, I'm holding his nail. I'm not pushing his nail like that. Okay, I'm just holding his nail lightly. And I want it to be a little more flush with the pad. And I know there's just a little bit of room there, so I'll just peel a little bit off. And just because you took a lot off one doesn't mean you're going to take the same amount off the next one. Each nail grows differently. It depends on how their toes fall and how they're on the ground and using those nails. Also, if it's rubbing, one nail could be rubbing a little more than another. There's that dark dot there. So you don't want to cut, like if you think I'm going to cut this much off, a certain amount off, you don't want to cut the same amount off the next nail because they grow differently. They get used differently when they're walking on the ground. And their toes, because their toes might, you know, one toe might curl in this way or, you know, or another toe will be just more up in the air and not being used much. So that's, sorry guys. It's hard to get my face in there. So yeah, that's how I generally do the nails. I'm going to do the front nails here and we're going to keep moving on. Now that little nail in the front here, the dew claw, sometimes they're not as easy to get to. I just slip my finger between his pad and his dew claw. And I come in with a pair of kitty nippers because I find it's easier to do those dew claws like that. So come in and I'm going to push that hair away like this. I'll show you again here. I come in, I'm holding the paw, push all of that hair away, press lightly on that little thumb here, that little toe, sorry, and just nice and flat, equal with that toe, okay? It could happen that it's not, you know, it happens. You could be the sweetest person in the world and just don't want to hurt the dog, of course not, but it does happen. It doesn't mean you're doing it on purpose. You just got to be really careful, and accidents do happen in grooming studios. Seriously, guys, it does happen. Happens to the best of us. I'm going to do his little thumb, and we are going to move on. So I'm going to show you how I do this part here. See? So I combed all of the hair down, this tail, and I brought it to around the table, just a little shorter. Usually I bring it to the table, but his tail was already a little short. Okay? So I'll just comb and separate between here, and I will cut a little flag where it's just like a half circle, like this, and then I'll come in and I'll comb all of this down, making sure here there's knots there, so you want to make sure there's no more knots, no more tangles. Okay, I bring it all down like that. The dog is patient enough with me, and I'll come in and I'm going to use my thinners here, and I'm just going to cut right above where his little poopy hole is, right there. I'm just going to cut like that and get rid of all that. So when he brings up his tail, wag his tail, he won't have anything dragging down there, okay? That's how I get that done. So when I turn the dog around, I'll come in under the legs here and comb all of that up. And come in, and whatever is sticking out and not following that leg, that line, I'll just cut it all out here also. Ooh, that was a sneeze in my face. All right. One thing for sure that I don't do is blow in the dog's face when they have hair here. Guys, when you're cutting your hair and you blow in their face, that hair goes right into the eye. You are getting hair in the eye, and when you get hair in the eye, there's always a possibility that those little hairs scratch the eye. And then they can have troubles there. So I always like to come in, and if I need to get rid of anything, I'll use my fingers or I'll pull it out and away. You don't want to scratch those eyes and cause any problems. And it's not comfortable, okay? Come in with my smaller, here, hang on, hon. Smaller scissors here, and I'm going to cut some of that off his top eyelid here, there, because I want to open that up so that he can see well. Okay, so no blowing on my part. I'm going to keep moving on.
In case you didn't know, I'm live on Wednesdays, 10 a.m. Eastern Time, and I upload new videos every Monday and Friday, 8 a.m. Eastern Time. So if you have any questions, feel free to write them down in the comments below. Take the time to subscribe and click the notification bell, because it's the only way you'll know that my videos have been uploaded.